It's been 2 years since Indiana lost 7-day-a-week Amtrak service from Indianapolis. Rail supporters are hopeful a train line will return to Indiana even if it isn't on Amtrak. Adam Pinsker reports it could hinge on the completion of another rail line.
Arvid Olson believes when people work together on a common goal, good things can happen, and that is what he envisions when he thinks of reviving Indiana's passenger rail industry.
I believe if people put their back to it, we could be looking at something in 3 years.
Olson says a century ago, more than a dozen trains per day operated out of Lafayette, ferrying passengers all over the Midwest and beyond. Now Amtrak's Lafayette station resembles a ghost town, with only one train running 3 days a week between Chicago and New York City. 2 years ago, due to dwindling ridership, a second train, Amtrak's Hoosier State Line, pulled out of Indiana for the last time.
It was hard for me to believe that they couldn't get enough passengers to keep that passenger train going from Indianapolis to Chicago.
Fort Wayne Senator Dennis Cruz co-sponsored an ill-fated bill earlier this year that would have established the Indiana Passenger Rail Commission. The commission would have looked at ways to improve intercity rail service in Indiana and around the Midwest. Cruz says INDOT convinced the legislature to nix the idea.
Just having an Indiana Passenger Rail Service Commission, they didn't think was adequate enough because, like I said, every train that's going to take passengers is going to go out of state.
But that doesn't mean future plans for train travel in the Hoosier State have been derailed. In April, President Biden visited an Amtrak station in Philadelphia to pitch his Amtrak jobs plan. It includes a proposed $10 billion on passenger and freight rail, along with dozens of new destinations.
Think of what it will mean for opportunity if we can connect Milwaukee to Green Bay to Madison, Scranton and Allentown to New York, Indianapolis to Louisville, and much, much more.
Amtrak used to run a line between Indianapolis and Louisville in the early 2000s, but there was already rail expansion taking place that doesn't involve Amtrak. The South Shore commuter line, which connects South Bend to downtown Chicago, will soon expand its tracks to accommodate trains in both directions between Gary and Michigan City. And a new spur called the Westlake Corridor will begin in Hammond and extend south. Last fall, ground was broken right here on the Westlake Corridor expansion, which terminates in Dyer, really close to Amtrak's Dyer station. And rail advocates see that as potential for unlocking more rail travel in the future.
Certainly, there potentially could be a joint venture between Amtrak and NICTE to provide that some additional layer of service. We'd have to have some discussions of actually how that's going to happen and where that service that would come up from Indianapolis, if it jumped on the Westlake line, how does it get into Chicago?
South Shoreline President Mike Noland expects the Westlake line to be open in 2024 or 2025. The Dyer station will include at least 900 parking spots for commuters.
If you take a look at Northwest Indiana, we have 4 counties with over 1 million people. We have one rail line that services those people that goes into Chicago.
Noland says a combination of riders moving to the suburbs and people continuing to work from home post-pandemic were the main reasons South Shore decided to expand. Further south, Olson sees the same potential among college students and working adults who may not want to deal with a commute along I-65.
We have somewhere between 225,000 to 250,000 college students in a corridor basically going from Bloomington up to Calumet in northwest Indiana.
Olson believes a thriving rail system with trains leaving at convenient times will keep these students from leaving Indiana to make a living. He envisions a commuter train similar to Florida's high-speed Brightline service with amenities like Wi-Fi, refreshments, and more space to move around, making rail travel an attractive alternative to flying through crowded airports.
You go to Indianapolis and you walk in and you try to buy a plane ticket to go from Indianapolis to O'Hare or to Midway. If you walk in cold, you're going to pay around $400 round trip to go there and come back.
While generations of Hoosiers have grown up with cars as their primary mode of transportation for long and short distances, Olson doesn't think the freedom and independence of having a car is what it used to be.
Can you widen Interstate 465 around Indianapolis anymore? Can you widen the Borman, 8094 across Lake County? It's you can't widen it anymore.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Adam Pinsker.